Welcome to the Queer Confidence Podcast, the podcast to help you become your most confident queer self. I'm your host, he, she, they, Coach Alex Ray, and I haven't always been this confident. In fact, I used to be super insecure. And through this show, I want to share with you what's worked for me, my clients, and my guests so that you can become more confident. Hey there, unicorns! Welcome back to another episode of this special bonus series. I'm so excited for our second guest today. I have Lizzy Lesbiana, the podcaster, host of the People's Lesbian podcast, and yet again, a friend I've met on Clubhouse. And she's just so fun, so positive. When she's in a room, I just light up hearing her voice. So I'm just excited for this conversation today. We're going to pretty much chat about all sorts of little things and give you some laughs. We're going to talk about some serious stuff, and we're going to keep it relaxed though. So strap in and get ready.
Strap in or strap up, right?
That was a total accident. Oh my God.
Oh, okay, we talking about strap-ons already?
Right? Oh my God. Welcome, Lizzy. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here. And like you said, another Clubhouse friend. So I definitely have enjoyed our Clubhouse interactions and the rooms that we've been in. So I was super excited to be a part of this. And I'm glad we were able to make it happen today. So again, thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, so let's start out I would love to hear about how 2020 went for you. We'll start off with some serious stuff, and then we're going to let out the jokes.
Okay, sounds good. So I think it's crazy that we're 5 months into 2021, but 2020 was just such a crazy year that that's still one of the first questions that I'm asked. Like, how did 2020 treat you? 2020 for me was definitely, it was a hard year, and it was definitely a lot going on in terms of the political climate. There was a lot going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot going on with our trans brothers and sisters, especially our Black trans brothers and sisters being killed. So 2020 for me was a lot of realizations, a lot of, how can I say, a lot of self-searching. It kind of puts you in that place of like, what am I doing? Or what else could I be doing? And 2020 also allowed me to realize, I always realized this, but it kind of magnified the power of community for me. And I think like all of 2020 showed like the power of community and how we were able to help and to mobilize and to advocate and to protest together. That was something that 2020 had also like showed me as well. And that's part of what prompted me to get started on my podcast sooner rather than later, was that community part. So 2020 was definitely a mix of emotions, not necessarily positive. But it was definitely an eye opener for me. Even big, because I knew these things were happening. It's not that I didn't know, and as being a woman, being Black, being gay, it's always something going on. So it's not saying like 2020 was a year of like, oh my, this has never happened before. But it was just like, we have to do more as a community. And when I say us as a community, I mean all of us. I mean everyone.
Yeah. Love that message, right? Because it's not on any single one person. Like, y'all, we've got to just be better together.
I do. I believe like we are stronger together than we are apart. Whatever privilege I have, I need to use it. The privilege that you have, you need to use it. What we can, we can all do our part in a way, whatever part that we can do. It's best that we contribute that to society and to community, because if 2020 didn't show us anything, it showed us that time is precious. It showed you who your friends were. It showed you the things you took for granted. It
Yeah.
really did. Um, and it really helped me to just be like, damn, Liz, like you gotta step your game up. Like you really do. Like there's too much work to be done to not do anything at all. So yeah.
Mm, yeah, for sure. Okay, what's your favorite positive thing that came out of last year? I mean, several of those things are positive, but what's
The most positive thing. I mean, the most positive thing that came out of last year is I would say that in some of my closest friendships or my personal relationships, like those definitely the ones that deepened or they ended, right? So there was like no in between. So it kind
mm,
of really showed me like who I I think we all do it, right? Like I definitely was taking some people for granted myself, right? And some of my friends, it's like, oh, I'll talk to you later, whatever it may be. And I'm like, damn, Liz, like you need to make more time for people, or you need to let people know how you're feeling. Because I'm really bad. I am really bad at that. I'm not even gonna lie. But I'm just like, damn, like I'm like, oh, I have to tell you that I care about you, right? I can't just say it once a year and expect you
mm,
to remember that, right? So I think for me, the positive part is that it definitely strengthened the relationships and friendships that I did have, and it really showed me who was in my corner, and it really helped me be in a better position to be in other people's corner. So I would say that was the best part about 2020 for me.
I love that. I agree. I really realized last year, oh my goodness, there's some relationships here that I've been kind of neglecting that are really, really important to me. And there were others that I was like, wait, where did these people go? Just
Right.
like, oh, I.
Yeah, yeah. They disappear. You're like, oh, thank God. Thank God. One less person has to answer. You know what I mean?
Right?
Honestly, sometimes I know it
Yeah.
sounds horrible, but sometimes I'm like, okay, one less.
Hey, we were all thinking it, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, that's okay. I'm like, you don't like me no more. Okay, no problem. Like, okay, one less. You know, like just one less
Hmm.
message to answer to. So yeah, I definitely get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Oof. And it like there were a lot of neat people. I think it really I realized for myself who was there just for kind of a season, who was there
Of
kind of out
course.
of convenience, and then who was really like an actual really good future friend, someone that was going to be going forward in life together. Yeah.
Like
How about this year? What have you been up to in 2021?
2021, like it's definitely going faster than I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that for 2021, I've been doing more um, community work and more educating myself, right? One way I've been doing that is being more active in certain groups on Facebook and just sitting in rooms and learning about other people's experiences. The same thing on Clubhouse, and also supporting and attending other events that our community members are putting on. Because that is one thing about the whole shift in the pandemic, right? And about going from in person to online and virtual, right? It's like I'm
Mm.
now able to attend these events in Miami virtually or in California virtually and support the people in our community doing work out there. And I didn't necessarily have that chance before, right? So for me, it's just showing up more for community members as well. Just being on lives, being in rooms, being in groups, and just seeing what everyone's doing because some people are doing such amazing work
I agree. Yes.
and they
Being.
need the support.
Mm-hmm.
And every person is like the same way we want support in and what it is that we're doing. It's just like there's so many people doing amazing things, and I want to know these people, and I
Yeah.
want to know what they're doing.
Yes. It's kind of fun that because the kind of bar of entry, right, or the obstacles to entry are
Yeah.
removed in a bigger way than they ever have before, because if everyone's
Mm-hmm.
online, like everyone's on a much closer to even playing field there. Um
I
and
agree for sure.
it's given opportunity to new people that might have otherwise had other things in their way between them and actually getting in front of people. And there it costs a shit ton of money to throw a big in-person event. It costs
Yeah.
what, $14 to have a Zoom account. So
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, that access that was granted. And it's like I've been able to learn so much more and educate myself so much more about other members in the community that aren't lesbians, right? Because that's
Mm,
also something else that I know I needed to work on. I wasn't comfortable in the place that I was at. And I'm
yeah.
like, I can't talk about community if I'm only talking about lesbians. Like that's not
Yeah.
ideal.
Yeah.
It's not a good move, you know? Like, I mean, I obviously love me some lesbians, obviously. But when it comes, but I'm just like when it comes to community work and everything that's being done, like I said, where we're better together than apart. So it was
hmm
just learning a lot more about what other community members like were going through and just educating myself. And the podcast has definitely helped me do that too, for sure.
Yeah. So what got you into starting the podcast?
Well, the podcast for me was like it was such a long time coming. Originally, I had
Really?
wanted to do a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel I had wanted wasn't necessary. I didn't feel that it was going to give what I wanted it to give, right? So
Okay.
I wanted something that could be informative. I wanted people to share their stories. I want to talk about events, but I was just like, I don't think that YouTube may be the place I want to do this at, right? And of course, there are people on YouTube who are in that space. They carve that space out and they're doing the damn thing on there. But for me, I felt that that wasn't it, right? So I'm like, where else can I take it to? And then I started thinking. I've been told it's so weird when people compliment you or tell you like, I don't know. Anyway,
What
so I
what
was
are the
told
positive things? I mean, I know what you we're about to do
positive
some life coaching right
things.
here. Not
Yes.
not really. But
Oh nah, that would be a
yeah,
long ass
I
session. Yeah.
I can relate. Okay, go what are the what were you going to say though? What's the hard things that people say for you
Well,
you
it
don't
was for
believe when they
me what
compliment?
kind of prompted the podcast was my speaking voice, right? So it was my speaking
Oh,
voice or my voice in general, right? And so people, oh, I love your voice. I love the way you sound. Or I love your talk. I'm like, this voice? This
stop. That
fucking
is like
voice?
literally why I wanted to have you on the podcast though
Stop.
too.
I'm like, this voice? And I remember I recorded my first episode and I sat on it for about 4 to 5 weeks.
Really?
The very first episode that I launched in December,
Mhm.
I sat on for because I was like, I can't believe I sound like that, and I can't believe that that's my voice.
Are you
And I
serious?
sat and I fucking sat on it. But
Oh
it was
my
crazy because people
gosh.
told me about my. I was like, well, maybe I could use my voice for that, right? And
Mhm.
that's when I was like, okay, let me do what I want to do, advocacy wise, community wise, and the podcast. And I was like, okay, I got everything together, picked my hosting site, got a logo, got the description. I did all the things. I watched the YouTube channel. I'm like, okay, I got a little mic.
You
I
were
got a little
prepped.
mic. I was fucking ready. I had a little mic. Got my little blue snowball. I was so ready. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do this podcast. I'm gonna be the people's lesbian. No, fuck that. I am the people's lesbian. So I'm like, I heard my voice. I was like, what is this? What is this? Who is this? Do I sound like
No.
this to other people? Yeah. So that's what prompted me and what halted me in my podcast. So yes, it was something I've always wanted to do something on this level, on this
Mhm.
to this extent and this caliber. I didn't know what medium I want to do it in. And then I had
Mm.
decided on doing it through a podcast. And then all the self doubt came in and blah, blah. And then I sat on for a few weeks. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do it because I think, like, as much as there's times I'm like, ooh, that's how you sound. The message of what I wanted to do, I had to kind of get over that, right? Because to
Mhm.
me, I felt like that was more important. I'm like, yo, either you gonna, it's like now it's like, you either gonna like this voice or you not.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you like it or you don't. Like, that's it. That's it. I can't change it. It's what I sound like. This is what
Yes.
I sound like. This is what I sound like. This is what I sound like. But
You can
yeah, that's what
sound
happened.
however you want, girl.
Exactly, right?
No, I've always enjoyed your voice on what the hell's that app that we met on Clubhouse?
Don't do that. Don't forget where you
Seriously, like
started. Don't forget where you
I've always enjoyed when we've been in a room together. I've been like, "Oh, I really you just the tone of your voice, it what it communicates to me in my head, I don't know. this is what I hear, is like, it's like certainty and
Like,
calmness.
this is what's happening. This is
Yeah.
what's happening. This
Yeah.
is it. Like,
It's very comfortable. I've always enjoyed your voice on there. And then when I
thank
learned that you were a
you.
podcaster too, I was like, this is awesome. We have to find a way to collaborate. So I was so excited when I decided to have this series and you said yes. I
Yeah.
was like, yay, perfect, because she's got an amazing voice for podcasting.
Yeah,
Hello.
and that's where it came from. And I first heard it, I was like, "Ooh, Liz, you sound like that? Damn, girl! Like people was really listening to you for years, sounding like that. Like it's crazy." And then I just got over it because I was like, "Look, I want to be able to do the work and
Yeah.
have the people listen and people." I mean, everyone learns in so many different ways, right? And I think that during the pandemic, and even as the past few years have gone on, podcasts have gotten more popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're more easily accessible. And for the most part, I do keep them within a certain time frame. So I'm like, okay, like I can try to give you a good amount of information just this week. Maybe this
Mm-hmm.
is what you want to hear this week. Maybe next week you want to hear something different. But I'm like, I'm able to still do what it is I want to do because I felt that I wasn't doing. I felt like something was missing when I wasn't doing the work that I wanted to do. And I know the podcast is like a great start.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is like the theme or the essence of the People's Lesbian podcast?
Sure. So I want to say, like with anything, and maybe over time it may evolve some, but
Mm-hmm.
right now, the People's Lesbian is just a platform for the entire community and for the news and things that happen within our community. So I want to be able to share people's stories. I want to be able to educate not only our members, I even have people outside of our community listen to the podcast, which makes me so happy. And like
Oh,
getting
yeah.
their feedback. Yeah, and like getting their feedback and saying, like, I've had somebody outside of our community say they listened to one of the episodes and they learned so much. And they said they felt like I explained it in a way where they didn't feel like attacked or like they didn't belong there. And they was like, damn, we was watching TV and we realized that everybody was straight. I was like, I was like, oh yeah. I loved it. I loved it. But like I said, it's just that education and that sharing because there's so much misinformation or so many things that are not talked about, even
Mm.
within our own community. That I mean, you want to realize that, right? It's just like I'll be on Netflix in the gay section, like, damn, they ain't update this yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna look at it differently. But somebody who's
Right.
not in the community, you know, she was like, oh my goodness, everyone's straight. I was like, you know, I feel that way too sometimes, you know, but you're really
Mm-hmm.
cool. You're really cool. And she was watching it with her and her straight husband. It was great. It was beautiful.
Oh
I
my
love it.
gosh.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what I want that knowledge to be there. And I was able to teach somebody something who wasn't even in the community. That's also super powerful. So just like
Mm.
sharing us and our stories. There's so much of us, so many facets that I'm just like, I don't know where to start or where to hone in at,
Yeah.
but I just want to educate more. And I'm up to episode 10. So I thank you. I was like,
Congratulations.
yo, I made it to 10. You made it to double digits out here. You know what I mean? I was so surprised, but it's just naturally it's been evolving, but it's been the sharing of the information and the interviews and I love it. And I'm excited to see like where it's gonna go next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ugh. It's once you make it past that 10th episode, it gets a lot easier. I had a different podcast last year
Mm-hmm.
and rebranded, archived the old episodes, and started the Queer Confidence podcast in February. And the old one had 52 episodes in the
Wow.
previous year. That was really neat to hit that. And also I was like a little bit beating myself up, like, do I really want to take this down? But I did because I wanted to be very clear about what it
Of
is
course.
this episode or this podcast is here for, and this is
Right.
who it's here to serve. This is the mission. This is what it's so.
Right.
But I can promise you, like, it does really get easier. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Especially like this year has been just stupid easy as far as the podcasting goes. It's
Mm-hmm.
those first 10 though are like, what am I
Ooh.
doing?
Right. I'm like, oh shit, that didn't upload. Like, oh, it's a whole day later. I'm like, oh.
Right.
It was. But no, it definitely gets easier. I think, like, for me, like I said, it's, like, also the messaging and what I want to be told is, still a work in progress, but I had to get started. So I got started. So if I ever want to, like, pivot or shift later on, I will.
Yeah.
But I think the variety of the episodes, like, I've been getting positive feedback from it. So
Great. I love it. I love to hear other podcasters get starting out, and because I'm still brand new at this, and it's just really great to support each other and
it is.
hear
I
other
definitely want to
people's
do
things.
more collaborations and be on other people's shows. So I was definitely excited when you're like, okay, like, let's get this done. I'm like, okay, good. I like this. Like, let's get this started.
Yes. What's your favorite episode that you've recorded so far?
My favorite episode that I recorded. Oh boy. So my favorite episode, I have two that are tied because one is Lesbian erotica. So that's near and
Please
dear to my
share.
heart.
Hold
That's near
on.
and dear to my heart.
Share it. Let's hear. Wait, what?
I had an author come on. Her name is Cree is a Lesbian. And I found her on Instagram during the pandemic. She was actually on someone's, I think they were having like a virtual a poetry night or a reading. It was a live night, and she basically writes erotica for lesbians, for Black lesbians. And I just, like, obviously fell in love. I'm like, ooh, okay, I like this. So I read some of her stories. She has a website, creasalesbian.com. So definitely, if you're listening, make sure to check her out, creasalesbian.com. And she has some of her work up there now. And I know she's coming out with something, I believe, later on this year. But I had her come on the show, and I had an interview with her, just asked her kind of like about her writing style and how she got started and, what she sees for her future. And also, the cool thing about Cree is she decides to remain anonymous. So when you go to her page,
That's cool.
yeah, she has her nice little mask on her face, so you can't see her like full face. And it makes it even sexier. And I know she's a sexy ass bitch under that mask.
Yes.
But I'm gonna let her live. I'm gonna let her live. But she stays anonymous, so that also gives like a different kind of edge, like, to her work. And her reading voice is amazing. So that was definitely one of my favorite episodes. It's definitely.
Wait, hold on. I have to ask here. When she's on the episode with you, was she like wearing a mask or something when you were recording?
No, she wasn't. That would have been great, but she wasn't. And it was so funny because it's like, I'm like a fan of hers. Mm-hmm. And so she just like, she didn't even know who I was. And I was just like, oh, hey, like, and I forgot I had my camera on. I'm like, wait, do you want the camera on? Because I forgot, it doesn't matter. I'm not taking video. I was like, well, I'm not taking video. It's just, easier when you're talking to see what the other person is doing. And then she's like, well, it's up to you because, I was like, right, I won't see your face regardless. So no, unfortunately, I was not able to see her in a mask this time. But her episode has gotten the most downloads. So if she's hearing this, I definitely want to invite her to come back and do a second part when she has a new piece out. But I haven't seen her yet. But I hope that it'll still happen because I know she's a bad bitch.
That's so awesome.
And then my second favorite one was with one of my good friends, JR. He has a YouTube channel, just JR. And the episode is What Does Everyone Ask Bisexual Men? And that was the funniest, like, so me and JR are actually really good friends. And what made it
I lost my
better,
virginity to a JR.
I'd love to hear it.
Oh my god.
Oh boy. I had two different, I guess, a guy one and a girl one, but I guess that's a different one, right?
They were both named JR?
No, they weren't. Could you imagine? That would be so convenient. Like, who was your first JR? I wouldn't have to disclose anything else, right? Like,
Right.
that would be hilarious. But no, I wasn't that lucky to do 2 JRs. But my friend JR, he is very cute, by the way. If anybody wants to look him up. So his YouTube channel is just JR. And we did, we went to the website buy.org.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I don't know if you're familiar with that site.
No.
I wasn't. Okay, yeah, I wasn't familiar with it. But my friend JR is the one who told me about it. So buy.org is like its own cohesive like website, tools, resources. Really glad he introduced me to that. But they have an FAQ section on there of like, yes, I was like, what the like, I mean, not at the FAQ, but I'm like, people really ask you these questions?
About these are like people ask by people these questions.
Yeah.
This sounds like a great episode.
Fucking FAQ. I'm like, nah, somebody didn't ask me to see a face. He was like, yeah, they did, and I couldn't. He answered the questions, and we did it with a drinking game. So every time somebody asked him that question, we would take a shot.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time the episode was done, we was done. Like, it's probably good it ended when we did, because the amount of people that asked him those questions was a lot more than I thought. And then we were doing double shots. So the kill was just adding up. And it was great though. It was really great hearing his responses, especially him being bi, he's Black, he's Nigerian. Like, that's a different point of view that you're not going to necessarily see presented to you online. And he talks a lot about this on his YouTube channel. He also does a lot about mental health and advocacy and stuff like that. But just JR, that's his YouTube, so definitely check him out. But those two were definitely like my top two, but there's not an episode that I haven't liked.
I love that.
They're also different.
They are. But they're both kind of like sexy.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Like, you need to go on that website and see the questions that they ask people.
Oh, I'm totally
that they ask bi people. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even know there was a whole website. And it's like, do bi men exist? It's like, what? That was one of the questions. Yeah.
Huh. Do they exist? Well, yeah.
I was like, oop, how do you feel? I was like, you're a fairy. You don't exist. You're a ghost. I mean, it was crazy. The questions that people ask. But yeah, that's interesting. Crazy. Can't say crazy, but interesting for sure.
Yeah. What for you? Because you shared a little bit about you had some insecurities around doing the podcast, but you knew that this is what you wanted to do, and you talked about a little bit of it's just because you felt so strongly that in the mission. But I don't know. Tell us a little more about that, because I know that there's somebody listening right now that's like, yeah, I know my thing that I want to start, and I'm not doing it yet because I'm afraid of judgment or how my voice is going to sound or what people are going to think of my face or whatever.
Right. So, I mean, I know I think it's so, when you have to, like, you answer these questions and you give people advice and shit sounds so cliche. I hate when somebody sounds like a fucking Pinterest quote.
Oh, yeah, like, me too.
What? Like, what are you talking about?
That's not original.
But you know what? There are definitely some people in which, like, that's just how they operate and that's how they talk, and it works for them. But for me, when I literally say, just getting started with something, I think that you have to remember that everybody's been a beginner. Like, I ain't come out my mom's womb podcasting. I ain't come out with a mic.
I did, so that's so weird.
Oh, you did? Damn. Lucky. You must have had Aetna or some shit. You had that good insurance. Prepared, fully covered and insured.
There you go. Now everyone knows.
Not everyone knows, but I just, like, you just have to get started. And I think, like, if there's something you really want to do, and it's something that it's like there's a part of you that keeps nagging you. It's like a reoccurring theme of throwing your head. It's like, oh, I would love to do this. I would love to do this. I would love to do this. And it's just like, so why don't you? Or why don't you just get started with it? It could be something you love, or, I mean, you can change your mind later on and decide not to do it. But I think that sometimes you sit around and you watch people doing all these things, and you're like, damn, I wish I could do that. But they all started from somewhere too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you have to, and I think for me, it's like I see somebody doing something that I want to do. I mean, that's some of your best motivation right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach out to them and ask them. There's a lot more people willing to help than you think, right? Like you can reach out to people and ask them, to collaborate. Like, oh, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? Or anything like that. So I think if you really have a strong mission in your mind, especially to help others, because there's definitely not a shortage of people, right, who don't care. There's definitely not a shortage of people who don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So if you genuinely care and you want to do something that's going to help other people or something that's going to better yourself, you kind of have to get out of your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the fact that I was able to teach people things that they would have never realized before. Like, you don't know how this is going to impact them and how they can pass it on to someone else. So it's like me getting over myself and being uncomfortable for those few moments or even hours. To me, the payoff was worth it.
Mm. How did it feel when you first started?
When I first started, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I was like, why am I doing this? I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me. And no one's going to listen to me. Why would anyone listen to me? Like, who am I, right? But then I of course, I had one or two of my friends who were super encouraging. And it's like, why wouldn't they listen to you? And it's like, I will listen to you. And it's like, like, you're really funny and you really care. And like, people are going to like that. Like, just be yourself and it'll take off. So I definitely had a lot of doubt. And there's still times that I do. And when I have those doubts, I have those moments, I go onto my little dashboard or my podcast and I look at my numbers and I be seeing it going up. I'm like, oh my God, y'all love me. I love the kid. Like, I never thought that, in my head, no one's gonna listen, no one's gonna download this, whatever maybe. And I was wrong. I was wrong. But when I started, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why would people listen to me? I want to do this, but why would people listen to me?
Yeah.
So.
I love that is kind of like exactly the answer I was hoping that we would hear, just because most people, including like myself, used to think this, that, oh, the other people that have started it are going with it already. Like, they didn't feel the way that I feel right now. They felt totally confident, totally ready. They were on the top of the world when they started, and they're not.
Right. Yeah. They're just, and then people like, oh, you have a podcast, that's so great. Or I listen to it. And so I'm like, crazy. Because like, if you would have talked to me in December, and where's your podcast? It was sitting, it was basically, my episode was sitting. I didn't publish it.
It was marinating.
I did it, upload it. Yeah, it did. It marinated nicely. Fell right off the fucking bone. Slow cooker. Like, people ask me, oh, what's going on with it? And like, the upload date and the publish date were two completely different dates. So I definitely get it. But no, it's not. People think that I have this. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. It's going to be great. I can't wait to start. And I started it and that was it. People don't see like the behind the scenes, or like you said, everyone thinks that everything is fine all the time. And that's not the case. That's definitely not the case. And I still have my doubts now. And I'm just like, damn, like, I made it to episode 10. Will I get to 20? Like, it's not saying that those doubts are there. I'm just like, you be looking at like podcast statistics. Like, oh my God, the death of an average podcast is how many episodes? Like, I've looked at all those things. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in that threshold. I'm like, oh, will this be it? Will this be the death of the people? Like, I still go through it. So I don't want to act like I don't. But like you said, once you get started, it gets it definitely gets easier, but you have to get started.
Yeah. This also goes back to like my first two episodes, which were the first 2 of 3 steps to confidence. And it's exactly what you just described. You were willing to be uncomfortable and then take action anyway. And it's also funny too how we think these things are going to happen to us. Like, oh, well, the average podcast dies at, I don't know, 14 episodes, whatever it is. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll make it to 15. Like, as if like you're out of control of recording a 15th episode. Like,
Right. It's like once in 15 episodes, like the microphone is gonna disappear, the laptop's not gonna work, like
Right.
Podbean will be shut down. Like it was not nothing will work. Yeah, it happens, and it still happens, but it was just that being uncomfortable. And that was also
Mm-hmm.
something that I had learned when I was in therapy too. It's like being even though I still hate that shit sometimes I think about it, like being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, like you have to sit in it. I'm like, this is a long ass seat. Like, how long I gotta sit in this? Like, this is a long moment. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta be uncomfortable in the moment. I'm like, damn, this is longer than a work Zoom call. Like, how long is this moment? But I'm just like, damn, get me the fuck out of here. And I still feel that way sometimes, but I know like, okay, if I can get through this and it's just kind of seeing what that end goal is and not that hump, like what's in the
Mm-hmm.
middle. It's like just like you want to get this out, you want to be able to share this, you want to be able to do the work that you want to do. So you have to. It's all putting yourself out there. I'm still putting myself out there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like what's happening is, and I've talked about this on, I think, that first episode too, is like most people start at being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And then all
yeah,
we're focused on is like, I just get me out of that uncomfortable. And instead of like, oh, wait, I feel this uncomfortable feeling like, I don't
right,
know, nervous, afraid, um, I'm judging myself and noticing that and being in it. There's a difference between being uncomfortable about the discomfort and also just allowing the discomfort and being like,
of
well,
course.
I'm uncomfortable. Time to record episode 11. I'm uncomfortable. Time to record episode
Yeah,
12. Here we go. You
yeah,
just keep
yeah,
going.
exactly. You just keep going. I'm like,
And you make it not a problem that you're uncomfortable.
yeah, you just like, yeah, you get used to it. You just
Yeah.
get used to being uncomfortable. So yeah, no, I definitely agree. So please, if you're out there and you want to start something, I always tell my friends, even when they want to start something, for the most part, the things that people have wanted to start that I know in my circle at least, right? Like these things exist already, right?
Mm-hmm.
They exist already, or like somebody else is doing it. And I know you get to that point, it's like, oh, why should I even bother if so and so is doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Or so and so is already the top of so and so, why should I do that? And I think like I had saw online one day a post about Fenty, about like Fenty makeup, right? And it's like, oh, Rihanna didn't say, oh, let me not launch my makeup line because there are other makeup lines, right? And she
Yeah.
turns out to be one of the best sellers, right? Like, so it's just, and she's not the only bestseller, but it didn't stop her from starting.
Yeah.
So it's if there's something that you could have, just a slight tweak that might attract different people to you as opposed to other people. You might share audiences, but I think like we do kind of get in our own way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And even like with that getting started. So it's just like, please, like if there's something you really want to do and it's something that nags you constantly, or like you got in I think a lot of people like you'll get the equipment for your craft or the kit for your craft, and then it just sits there. Like
Yeah.
you don't do anything with it. Like you get all the things you gather, you get all the labels, and you get all this, you get that. You're like, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna do that, and then it's just like, forget it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just do it. And then obviously having people in your corner who support you is also important. And if you could have anyone, like I said, like mentor you or like talk, because there's so like there's people who weren't like willing to help you out. Like when people reach out to me and ask me questions about certain like like, oh, how did you start it, or where's your podcast at? Like I'll tell them, like I'll send people links, and so
Yeah.
I think people are definitely more willing to help than people think.
Totally. I agree 1,000%. I want to switch gears real quick.
Why you made that
Yeah,
face?
you ready? Would you?
Why you made that face like
I
that?
made a face. I don't know what I mean. Girl, I make some weird ass faces, so I apologize. I don't know what my face does sometimes. I want to switch gears real quick to something. Is that the face that I made? Did I do it again?
Something like that. It was like a little naughtier though. So like the
Oh
eyes
yeah.
were like, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's because it is kind of gonna be naughty. Um, I want to ask you, what are some of your like favorite or most obnoxious, dumbest questions or whatever that you get being a lesbian?
What is the dumbest question? Dumbest question. So you really don't like guys? I'm like, like, so you really don't like guys, or are you still a lesbian?
Oh yeah, right.
Are you still a lesbian? Like, I love the memes where it's like, yeah, I turned in my paperwork and I got accepted, and that was it. And it's just like, so yeah, like, why are you lesbian? So you don't like guys? Are you still a lesbian? How do lesbians have sex? Who is the man? I'm like, what? Like,
I
who is the
really
man? Like, what? Like, I'm still being asked these questions, and I've been
still.
pretty consistent for like the last 10 years, and people are still asking me these questions. And someone's like, "Oh, this you're still a lesbian. It's been a really long phase."
No, they did not say that.
Yeah, it's like
What?
you're still a lesbian. Like this has been a really long phase. I'm like, I was like, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Huh?
It's just gonna just keep on keeping on. Like,
You're like, yeah, it's one of those damn phases that just doesn't quit till I'm dead. Like breathing. Another phase I'm going through.
that breathing phase is also annoying, but whatever. I guess I got to do that too. I think yeah, those are like pretty standard. Those are the questions that I'm constantly asked, and I'm asked those questions a lot. I would say like the mid level or the in between questions is like, oh, you sure
Mm-hmm.
you're not bi? Um, oh, you know the one I get before? Have you ever been with a guy? So it's like, if you've been with a guy,
Oh.
yeah. So it's like, oh, if you have been, because it's like, oh, people ask me like, oh, like if I'm a gold star, right? If I'm not a gold star, then it's like, oh, so that means you've been with a guy. And I was like, yeah, we all make mistakes. And then people look at me like shocked. I'm like, fuck out of here. Like, and just because I was doesn't mean I'm gonna be with you, right?
These
And
are like
then,
dudes that are asking you these
of course,
questions. Oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
It's
Yeah,
mostly
yeah,
guys.
yeah. Okay.
Sometimes a lot of girls that ask me, it'll be more like, it's more of a curiosity, and I think it's more along the lines if they're trying to figure out if they like women.
Mm-hmm.
So their questions, it's like, oh, well, when did you know? Like, when did you realize? Or like, or the what happened? I'm like, do you
Mm-hmm.
mean the first time I had sex with a girl? Because that's also what happened. They're like, what? I'm like, what? Was that too much? We're not going there? Okay, great. Like, I don't know. So girls is more
Right.
curiosity, but guys, it's just been a lot more abrasive. Like, so you've been with a man then? I'm like, have you been with a man? And then it's like, I'm like, I'm just asking. We just asking each other questions. So I just want to
Right.
know if you've been with one too.
Right. I thought we were just all sharing information
Yeah,
here.
I'm like, oh, I thought you've been with a man too. And that's cool if you have. I'm like,
Oh
have we
my
all been with
gosh.
men here? um, yeah, definitely those questions. I'm trying to think what else to. I think after a while, it just like you get so like in a way, I just been so desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just kind of like when people ask me something, I'm like, what? Like, or just have like some generic answer that I give people just because it's easier. But like I said, I've been out. I want to say I've been like out for like the last 10 years. So at this point, I'm not necessarily phased.
Right.
Um, yeah, I'm just like, whatever. Like, it's just such stupid, like, such, and you know what it is too? I think even me, like, I always say sometimes I don't, sometimes it's not what you ask, it's what you don't ask. You know what I mean? Like, don't ask me certain things. So if I have certain questions about someone's sexuality or whatever, maybe even now, I kind of just leave it alone now, to be honest.
Right.
Because it's like, there's a time and a place for everything. Some people aren't the fucking people's lesbian. They don't have a whole podcast. You know what I mean? Saying that they're a lesbian. Not
Right.
everybody reveals, their sexual orientation, preference or
Yep.
preferences. So I leave it alone. But I guess when you're a lesbian, people are just like, wow, you're really a lesbian. So I don't know.
That's so
I don't know. I
funny
think it's
that they.
kind of weird because I think that they think it's either like, I don't know, it's just like gay men or just bi women. Like, I don't know. It's not as fluid to a lot of people, and they just don't seem to understand like the term lesbian. It's just like, it's a term, it's its own term for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that mostly because obviously I bring the gay cis male perspective, and I think that there is a difference in the way that, for sure, that we're questioned versus lesbians.
Right. Right. No,
Yeah,
my questions are just like oh no, they're invasive, right? Yeah.
very bad.
The questions
How do you
aren't
have sex? Right?
oh yeah, that's invasive,
I
right?
don't ever get that question. Right? They already know, and they're just like, I don't like that stuff. Like, have you ever tried though? Are you sure?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be asked that question.
Yeah.
I'm always asked that question, like, oh, how do you guys have sex?
You should make up a really funny story and be
I
like,
should,
well,
right?
we call it scissoring because we use a pair of dull scissors. And
Like I've had like oh boy. Like some people like your podcast not mine. Just like, should I say it? No.
wait, what is it? I'm so curious now.
I just remember somebody asked me, it was like, do you bump coochies? I'm like, and then it's like you try to be like, you don't want to be rude, like, because that's rude, but it's like, oh, I want to do it with your mom or like your sister, like then that's rude. Like I've done
Right.
that to someone. Someone's like, I'm trying to talk to you, and I'm like, well, I'm trying to talk to your sister. He was so mad. He was so livid, but his sister was so pretty. Like he would have been pretty too if he was a girl.
Yeah,
I
right.
do that in my head sometimes. I'm like, see, we could do this and that.
Right.
And yeah, then I could bump coochies with you.
There you go.
There you go. Do you guys bump coochies? I'm like, oh my goodness. This is like a really like messed up, like, I don't know. I'm sure no one asked me like
it.
questions like that.
No, they don't. I'm like missing out on a whole opportunity to bring up awkward topics. I do like so I don't know. I guess it depends on the company, but typically, I don't mind if somebody asks me an uncomfortable question. I'm like, great. I'm going to give you the most uncomfortable response because I think it's funny. I really find a lot of humor in their like discomfort after they asked a question that was like uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like you said, making a joke out of it or turning it back around. It's like, so you've been with a man? I'm like, yeah. Have you been with a man? Or why are you asking me that? I'm like, why are you asking me that?
Right.
Which is, I thought we were doing a Q&A. So I was like, you go, then I go, and then go back and forth with it. So yes, I do find a lot of humor in things, and I think sometimes my face is hard to read. So I think sometimes I might look like I'm upset, but I'm probably trying like not to laugh, but I'll look like I can't believe you said that to me. But I think it's probably like hilarious because what I'm going to say to you would probably be worse.
Oh, there you go.
And now you're going to be uncomfortable. And it's like, you don't think that would have made me uncomfortable if I had more feelings? I mean, I don't. I'm just like, whatever. But I'm like, if I was like a highly emotional, a sensitive person, right?
Right.
Wouldn't I be hurt or something? Like, wouldn't I be like, that might hurt my feelings. That might offend me. That might make me uncomfortable.
Yeah. It might just be a rude question.
There's that.
And there's also a cool invention called Google that you can use, when you're curious about things and don't have someone that's close to you that you can appropriately ask those questions to.
Yeah, I'm like, let's just go to Pornhub and put in lesbian and see what pops up.
Oh, that's how they do it. Interesting, right?
Like any questions I have, I will find out with the click of a button.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't mind people asking me awkward questions, but they just be prepared to be given like the full unfiltered thing. And also like like we said, there is Google if you don't have a friend, but like asking a stranger a question like that is really weird.
It is, yeah.
You could just you don't know if you don't know any lesbians, then use Google. If you don't know any gays, then use Google maybe. Or also like get yourself a lesbian friend.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, I mean it's different if like one of your and then it's funny because the people who can ask you these questions usually don't.
Yeah, because they don't
or
give
you
a
wouldn't
shit.
mind. Yeah, right. The people say, okay, if you asked me that, I would answer you.
Yeah.
But it's people who was like, you don't even know. I'm like, get out of here, stranger danger. Like, fuck out of here. Like, who are you? Like, and then be mad at me when I have some comeback about like their sister or niece or whatever. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's
Moral
the
of
pronouns? She, hers? What's up? They're like, oh, don't do that. What's your pronouns?
Moral of the here you go. Give them the V and tongue. Yep.
That's what we do.
Oh my god, people are missing out by not having this video right now.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She just gave the you know what index and middle finger with the tongue between, right? So there you go. Now y'all can picture that. But moral of the story here is have fun with people's fucking questions, because you could either be offended or you could also turn it around and make it fun. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are exhausted of having certain questions asked of them, yes. And we as a society are, it seems, moving towards more respect for our fellow humans, which is
slowly,
thank God. But in the meantime, we're just gonna keep joking with everyone.
We're gonna just keep doing it. Yeah, that's fine. It is what it is. I'll be ready for it.
I'll be ready. Yeah,
I'll be ready.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been so fun talking with you. Before we close out, I wanted to know, is there anything that you really, word of wisdom or anything that you really wanted to share with our listeners today?
Sure. So if there is something you want to do that you know is going to either better yourself and or the people around you, and you're hesitant, just get started and do it. There, like I keep saying, there are so many resources. I think I can say that there sometimes it might be hard to find those resources, right? But there are so many resources, and there are so many people who are going to be able to steer you in the right direction. So many YouTube videos, so many events. Like, just get started. Like, make it a priority to get started on what's going to make you happy or do the things that you want to do. So definitely just go for it.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, that just get started. You don't have to have it planned out to the, 57th step.
Yes. And I know it's hard, especially everyone's different personality types. You might feel more secure with having all those things planned out. And I don't blame you. I would love to just look ahead and know what's going to happen and not happen, But unfortunately, since life doesn't work that way, at least not for me, just getting started is the best step to take.
Yeah, totally. Oh my goodness. Lizzy Lesbiana.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you for coming. This is the dirtiest episode of the podcast yet. I love that. And thank you. This has just been so much fun to chat with you. Thanks for being on the podcast and sharing some inspiration with everyone. Amazing. All right. Quickly, we're going to put everything in the show notes, but where can people find you online?
Yeah, so of course you can find me. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Clubhouse at Lizzy_Lesbiana. I'm also on Twitter at The People's Lesbian. And you can also find me on Patreon at The People's Lesbian. Those are all the places you can find me. So if you want to reach out to me, chat with me, or if you're interested in being on the show, then let me know. I'd be glad to have you.
I love it. And we'll link all that up in the show notes so you all can access that super easily. All right, my friend, have an amazing day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend so they too can become more confident. You can also help more people find the show by leaving a 5-star review wherever you listen. And if you want to become a more confident queer with support from yours truly, head to coachalexray.com or use the link down in the show notes. I'm looking forward to working with you.